So what happens when an entire government officially condemns a community and then publishes a document to justify it? How do you even begin to answer back? Well, today we're going to look inside a single, really powerful book that was written not for fame or anything like that, but as an act of defiance against a whole nation's verdict.
And this is it. This is the object right at the heart of our story. Its title basically translates to Response to the White Paper of the Government of Pakistan. It's not a flashy cover, but its entire purpose is right there in the name. This is a direct reply, a formal rebuttal. Really, it's a historical document born out of some incredible pressure.
And we really need to be clear about this from the get-go. This isn't just some abstract theological debate. This is a community putting its entire case on the record, fighting for its identity and its right to exist against the full weight of a state that had officially labeled it heretical.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First up, we'll get into the conflict that actually sparked this book's creation. Then, we'll dive into the two big accusations the state made. We'll look at how the book answers the whole British plot thing, and then how it tackles the idea of jihad. And finally, we'll wrap up by talking about why this one document still matters so much today.
Okay, so to really get this book, you first have to understand the fire it was forged in. I mean, this response didn't just appear out of thin air. It was really the boiling point after decades of tension that just kept building and building.
And this is the man who wrote it, Hazrat Mirza Tahir Ahmad. He was the fourth caliph, or the spiritual head, of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community at the time. So as the leader, it really fell on his shoulders to write the definitive, official answer to every charge the government was making.
Now, the thing he was responding to was something called a white paper. And you got to understand, this wasn't just some angry pamphlet. A white paper is a serious, authoritative government report. It's meant to be a declaration of official policy, carrying all the weight and legitimacy of the state behind it.
And this timeline here, it shows a really clear pattern. Things just kept escalating. It starts back in 1974 when the parliament passes a constitutional amendment that legally defines Ahmadis as non-Muslims. Fast forward a decade to 1984, and a new ordinance makes it an actual crime for them to even call themselves Muslim. So the white paper in 1985, that was the final piece, the state's official, published justification for everything it had already done.
So what were these official charges? What was the government actually accusing them of? Well, according to this book, the entire state-sanctioned case really just boils down to two huge allegations.
And you can see right here how the community decided to frame its own defense. The title page itself lays out the battleground. It explicitly lists what it calls the two false accusations that are at the very core of the state's case. And pretty much the entire rest of the book is dedicated to taking them apart piece by piece.
All right, let's get into the first accusation. This one is deeply political. It tries to tie the community's origins directly to the British Empire, basically accusing them of being a tool for the colonizers.
And here's the core argument. On one side, you have the state's accusation. You are a British plant, created to weaken Islam. And the book's response is, essentially, you are completely ignoring the historical context. The community argues that, yeah, their founder did praise British rule at times, but it wasn't about political loyalty. It was about pure gratitude for finally having religious freedom after years of persecution.
And to prove this point, the book quotes its founder directly. You can see it here. He says he praises the government specifically because it doesn't interfere in religion, because it allows people to believe what they want. And he's drawing a sharp contrast with the rulers who came before. So the praise is totally conditional, and it's all based on that one thing, religious liberty.
The book really builds its case by laying out the history. It describes how, just before the British arrived, Muslims in Punjab were facing intense religious persecution under Sikh rule. We're talking things like the call to prayer being banned, mosques being damaged. The book argues that when the British came, for all their other issues, they put an end to that specific persecution. So the founder's praise was just an expression of relief. And the book also points out, hey, he wasn't the only one saying this. A lot of other Muslim leaders at the time felt the exact same way.
Okay, so the second major charge moves away from politics and straight into theology. And this is a big one. The accusation that the founder of the Ahmadiyya community got rid of the Islamic concept of jihad, all to keep Muslims passive for his supposed British masters.
So once again, you see this direct contrast. The government says he canceled jihad. The book's counter is, no, he didn't cancel it. He clarified it for the modern age.
The argument is that the specific conditions for military jihad, which require active persecution and no religious freedom, simply weren't being met under British rule. So instead, he pushed for what the community sees as a different and honestly, a greater kind of jihad.
So the book breaks down this theological distinction. It explains that the jihad of the sword, which is that defensive military struggle, is only allowed when a community literally cannot practice its faith freely. Since that wasn't the case, that form of jihad was suspended, and in its place was the jihad of the pen, this constant intellectual and spiritual struggle to defend and spread Islam's message through reason, dialogue, and leading by example. This, the book says, is the real greater jihad for our time.
So we've seen the government's accusations and the book's very detailed source-based answers. But let's just zoom out for a second. Why should we care about this one book today? What's its lasting importance?
At the end of the day, this book is so much more than just a religious text. It's a blueprint for a battle of narratives. It's a primary source that shows us step by step how a community facing down the power of a state can refuse to let others define them. By using the tools of scholarship, history, theology, reasoned arguments, they build their own story, a powerful counter-narrative designed to stand right up against the official state version. It's a profound act of self-definition in the face of being erased.
And that leaves us with this huge question, one that goes way beyond this one specific conflict. In any society, when the state has the power to write history, to legislate what people are, and to create the official story, what is the real power of a single reply?